Hello, my little yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. Now today I'm going to show you this super duper lovely lacy hat, and this is called the Perfect Pink Shells Cap. And it is from a blog called Susie's Stuff. Now, I did make a number of alterations to the original pattern, to be perfectly frank, because it didn't fit, following the exact instructions. So I did make some tweaking. Also, at the crown, I also did some tweaking. So, I got the basis of the idea from the pattern, but I did not follow it in its entirety. I did make a number of adjustments to its construction and so forth. However, I totally believe in giving fair credit, so I will put a link in the description box down below. Please show your support and, visit her blog by all means. Now, for this piece, it was Impeccable by Loops and Threads. It is a worsted weight yarn, and I'm going to be using the same stuff for this tutorial, and I used a size I crochet hook, and it's really quite easy, quite simple. This would actually be really nice in a cotton for the warmer weather, and without further ado, let's get started. Alrighty, round one. Alright, so to begin with, now you could do a magic ring, a chaining, and, a slip stitch and so forth. For this, actually, because it is such a small beginning, I'm going to start, actually, by merely doing my slip knot. Oh, by the way, it is a size I 5.5 millimeter hook that I'm using. I'm going to do 2 chains. 1 and 2. Alrighty. And into this first chain, I'm going to do 6 single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and then you can pull your tail nice and snug, so there's no problem with that. And that is, quite simply, that is the end of the first round. Now, also, what you are going to need is a small scrap of yarn, which you are going to want to place in the last stitch that you created. And I'm grabbing one right now. All right, and scissors, here we go. Because instead of going in actual rounds, we're going to do a spiral, which I think works better than doing a round and then slip stitching. This is just me personally, but this is part of what I said about tweaking the pattern, because I find that the slip stitches leave a gap. Okay, so that's the end of round 1. Alrighty, round 2. So in round 2, we're going to do single crochets into each of these single crochets, 2 in each. So it's easier, I find, to find which one is your first going back. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So into this one, which is our next single crochet, right in there, 2 single crochet stitches. So that's 1 and 2. And that's our first one right there. The last one from the previous round. So we've got 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just doing 2 single crochets in each. 7, 8, 9, 10, and then in the last stitch, your last 2. So that would be 11 and 12. Then what you want to do is, excusez-moi, you want to move the scrap up to your new final stitch for the round. So what I do is I grab the yarn. Oops, I pulled it out entirely because I have a really short scrap. Just pull it through this next stitch. There you go. Alrighty. And that's the end of round 2. So we went from 6 single crochets to a total of 12. Now, as you can see, it's nice and seamless at the moment, as opposed to doing your slip stitches and so forth, So that's round 2. All right, round 3. So for round 3, we're going to increase yet again, this time doing 2 stitches into the first and then 1 into the next. So 2 stitches in the first and then 1 in the next. Now, if any of you are familiar with amigurumi, this is right up your alley. All right, because again, it works in the spiral. So then we do 2 in the next, and then 1 in the following stitch. 2 in the next, 1 in the following, 2 in the next, 1 in the following, 2 in the next, 1 in the following, 2 in the next one, and then 1 in the very last stitch where our little scrap of yarn is. Okay, and so right now you should have a total of 18 stitches because we keep going up in increments of 6. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Excuse me, not 16, 18 stitches. 3 times 6 is 18, not 16. Okay, so you should have 18 stitches by the end of round 3. And I'm just going to move up my yarn here to the next level, like so. And I'm just going to leave it intact like so, like there. And it's great because this is not going to go anywhere if you don't want it to, because it's nice and in there. But you can pull it out very, very simply. All right, so that's the end of round 3. All right, round 4. So for round 4, more increasing. This time it's 2 in the first and then 2 regular ones. Now, a great way of remembering where you need to be is, okay, so it's round 4. Well, you go in increments of 4. So it's 2 in the first, then 3, 4 are regular ones. So to illustrate, 1, 2 is in the second one, and then in the next 2 stitches, just regular single crochets. So that's 3 and 4. See? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we start over again. So that's 2 in the first, 1 and 2. And then in the next 2, it's just 1 in each. 2 in the first, and then 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, and then 4 is going to be in the last stitch right here. And 4. Shaboom. All right. So at the end of round 4, you should have a total of 24 stitches. So I'm going to move my yarn up once again. There we are. And that's the end of round 4. All right, round 5, same deal. It's quite simple. 2 in the first, and then 3. Well, for the next 3 stitches, just 1 in each. So that's 1, 2, then 3, 4, and 5. So that's 2 in the first, so that's 1, 2, then 3, 4, and 5. 2 in the first with 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5. 2 in the first, 1 and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. Almost there. 2 in the first, 1 and 2, and 3, 4, and 5. 1 more to go. 2 in the first, 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the last, 5. All right. And so at the end of this round, you should have 30 stitches. See how it keeps going up in increments of 6? All right. And that is the end of the 5th row. Okay. All right, round 6. Okay. Same deal as before. So it's 2 in the first, 1 and 2, and then 4 more regular ones. So that's 2. Then in the next, that's 3, 4, 5, and 6. Excuse me. 2 in the next one, so that's 1 and 2. Then 3, 4, 5, and 6. 2 in the next one. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. 2 in the next one. It's 1 and 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6. It's always 2 in the first stitch, whatever the increment is. All right, and then 2 in the first one, 1 and 2, then 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we've got 1 more increment to go, so that's 2 in the first. By the way, if you're ever lost, if you look closely, you can see where you have your 2 single crochets into the same stitch. And you're always going into that first one right here, right there. You're going into that first one always with your 2. And it's a great way to, see it's like, oh, great, I lost count. Well, you can just pick right up where you left off. All right, so I'm doing 2 in the first. That's 1 and 2 and 3 4, 5, and 6. So at the end of this round, you should have 36 stitches, excuse me. So going to pick up my scrap once again. Ta-da! And that's the end of round 6. Alrighty, round 7. Alright, again, 2 in the first, 1 and 2, and then the remaining 5 are 1 in each. So that's 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then 2 in the first, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 2 in the first, 1 and 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then 1 and 2 in the same stitch, as we have been doing. Then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, we're getting there. 2 in the first with 1 and 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then 1 more to go. 2 in the first, so that's 1 and 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 is in the last one. Shaboom. And so for the end of this round, you would end up with a total of 42 stitches. Now, at this point, the pattern stops. However, this is really not big enough. Now, granted, this is not going to be where the growth stops for the pattern, because the shells do make this expand outward quite a bit, and then it takes a bit for the shells to go in the up and down formation. But you know what? I did try it, and I had to keep going. So I added another round. Now, keep in mind, you can alter this pattern, ultimately however you wish, because it's just a matter of however many shells you end up needing for your circumference, going all the way around. If you left off here, you would end up with 14 shells. I needed 16 in order to get it onto my noggin. And if you have a lot of hair, which I don't, then you might need even more shells. So keep that in mind. You can make this into a rather small hat or a rather large hat, Or I suppose you could even make it into a really lovely bag if you just turn it upside down. If you think about it, that could be rather neat. I'm just saying, I'm just creative problem solving here. So without further ado, we will continue on with round 8, and then I'm going to show you how to do the actual shells. Alrighty, last but not least, we've got round 8. So again, we're going to go into that first stitch with 2 single crochet stitches as always, and then the remaining 6, just 1 in each. So that was 2. So we've got 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Okay, 2 in the next, So that's 1 and 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pull out some more yarn. And 8. 2 in the next. 1 and 2. Then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Excuse me. 2 in the next. 1 and 2. Then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 2 in the next. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And 1 more to go. We're almost there. 2 in the next. So that's 1 and 2. It's late and my voice is going. I'm sorry. All right, so that's 2. Then 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 in the last one. And that I find for me. Now, this is considering my own personal gauge, the thickness of the yarn, and the size hook that I'm using. You may need to make some adjustments, okay? Also, this yarn, even though it's a worsted, it's a tad thick for a worsted, and my stitching, on the other hand, is very tight, so you may need to make some adjustments. And you won't really know, is this going to fit, until you do a couple of rounds with the shells. All right, so keep that in mind, you know. As you can see, this is a really quick process. It's very easy. So if you need to undo some stitches or create some more, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. You know, it's very simple to pick up where you left off and keep going. You know, it's really not that bad. All right, so without further ado, let's keep going with our shells. Okay. Alrighty, round 9. Now, this is round 9 for me, although this may be, technically speaking, round 8 for you, or round 7 if it's a, you know, a hat for a small child, or whatever, but I'm on round 9. Now, to do your shells, what you need to do is now chain up 3, 1 and 2 and 3, okay, and then do a double crochet into the same stitch. Now we're going to go right into here where we finished off, right in there. And we've got our double crochet. Now, one could very easily argue that this makes it lopsided, but you know what? In the grand scheme of things, I really don't think that when you see the hat as a whole, that it's going to make that much of a difference. You know, you could slip stitch and you could do it that way. But, you know, I just say chain up 3 and into that same stitch down below, just do your double crochet. Okay. Alrighty. And then chain 1 and 2 more double crochets into that same stitch that we just worked into. And that creates your first shell. Also, this is at the top of your head. So unless if you hang out with a lot of people that are taller than you, I don't think anybody's going to notice this slight deviation right here. You know, I mean, do you? I don't. All right, so then to continue on with the shells, all you need to do is we're going to skip the next 2 of these single crochet stitches, and then in the third stitch, the third single crochet stitch, do another shell. It's as easy as that. So skipping these first 2 ones, going into the third with a double crochet into that third stitch, then another one, a chain 1, and then 2 more doubles into that same stitch. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And so now we have 2 shells. Ta-da! And so that's what you ultimately are going to do for the rest of the round. Skipping 2, going into that third, and create another shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 more doubles. And for the rest of this hat, in fact, you're doing the exact same thing, which makes it really nice and easy from here on out. So skipping the first 2, going into the third with 2 doubles, then a chaining of 1, and then 2 more doubles. Okay? And you're not chaining in between, by the way. In between your shells, no chains. So also what you want to do is when you're going from the end of one shell to the beginning of another, try to make it just a little bit snug. Not death grip snug, but a little bit snug. Otherwise, the spacing in between your shells will look a little sloppy. Because that could look a little sloppy. So I'm going to undo that, in fact. There you go. See, that's a little bit neater. And so another double, then a chain 1, and then 2 doubles. All right. Isn't that pretty? So pretty. All right, and I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to cut, and I will meet back up with you when I'm done with this round. So it's just 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, being sure to skip 2 of these stitches for each shell that you create. Ta-da! All right, so I'm going to meet back up with you when I'm done with this round, and I'll show you how to do the join, okay? And I will be right back. Alrighty, so I worked all the way around with my shells, and I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and this one right here in the unfinished spot will make 16. All right, and then we will be done with round 9. So again, skipping my 2, going into that third with a double crochet, 1 more, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets into that same stitch, and then we slip stitch into the top of this chaining of 3 that we initially started with. And that's how you finish the round. Now, you need to get into the center of this chain 1 space. So slip stitch into the next stitch, that next double crochet, slip stitch into there, and then slip stitch into the chain 1 space. And that is the end of round 9. And that is actually what you do for the rest of this pattern all together. And I'm going to show you what you're going to do to continue. And that, my dears, is, all right, so you're in the chain 1 space, right? Well, to start the next round, chain up 3, double crochet into that same space, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets into that same space, and that is your first shell. And then you're just going to work doing your shells into the chain 1 space of each subsequent shell, and then when you get back to the beginning again, you would finish by slip stitching, because your last shell would be right in here in this chain 1 space. And then when you finish that shell, you would slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 here, slip stitch into the next double crochet, and then slip stitch into the chain 1 space. And then again, you would chain up 3, do another double crochet, chain 1 and 2 double crochets. And now me personally, what I did was I did a total of 9 of these shell rounds, and I quite simply just left off after the 9th round, and then after the slip stitch, the joining slip stitch, I cut my yarn, sewed in my end, and that was that, as they say. Now you could also do a single crochet brim. Personally, I think that it makes the piece look incongruous with itself. Again, it's just a matter of personal opinion, personal preference. You know, I like the sort of uniform nature of the hat just coming right down without an actual brim. I think it looks rather nice. You know, it makes me think of, you know, a flapper from The Great Gatsby or some such. You know, I love this edge. It's so gorgeous. Very, very nice. So, listen, my dears, I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial very much. If you did, please give it a little thumbs up button down below, because I do appreciate your support. And also, like I said, if you want to visit the original pattern that I was inspired by, you can check that out. I will put a link in the description box down below. You know, just keep in mind that there are some alterations as far as increase placement and how many increases, and, you know, etc., etc. You know, so take me with a grain of salt, if you will. So, you know, like I said, you know, hope you liked it very, very much. Would love to hear your comments as always. And also, if you want to see more, please hit subscribe, because I do try to post as often as I can, whether it's knitting, crocheting, audiobook narration, or my other YouTube channel, Fiber Spider Games, where I give video game playthrough and commentary. That is such a mouthful at the end of every episode, I tell you. So listen, until next time, I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, and above all, stay stitching. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.